What's up? Welcome back to another live stream here on Free Will Photos. Today we are talking about photo projects. All right, photo projects is the main thing that we're going to be talking about today. Now, I'm going to be using DxO software to really hone in on this photo project. You can use whatever software you so choose, but at the time of this live stream, and hopefully, if you're catching the recording in a couple days after the stream, DxO is actually having a sale on their software. You could save up to 50% on their software. So if this is something, as we go through the tutorial today, and you're like, hey, I think I need this type of software because, you've been on the fence, then consider using the affiliate link that I have down in the description box below. It's not going to charge you anything extra, but I do make a small commission, and it just goes back into supporting this channel and the content that I create here. I greatly appreciate it. Now, we're going to jump into the computer, talk a little bit about photo projects, and then we're going to start with what I'm calling part one, because I'm not going to finish this project today. However, over the next couple weeks, maybe even a month, I'll give myself about a month and a half, and we'll talk about timing here in a little bit. I'm going to share my process of working on personal projects and what I kind of go through in order to make sure that that happens. But I want to hear your experience with personal projects. So down in the description box, let me know what it is that you like to do with your personal projects, what your ideas are. And if you've never done a personal project, then, just say, hey, I've never done a personal project. And then answer the question, are you going to start doing a personal project? And what will it be about? So let's jump into the computer, take a look at that. So I'm not going to bore anyone with the PowerPoint slides here. I just want to kind of go through this because I think that there's some value in showing this. And let me get to this view. There we go. Making sure that I'm not going to cover up anything as we go through the slides. But personal photo projects, keep your joy for creating. And that's really the whole reason that I am suggesting, and many people suggest photo projects. Whenever I talk to a photographer and he or she says, I just don't have the passion to go out and shoot anymore, I ask them, what photo project are you working on? What personal photo project, right? Because some photographers, maybe you just, you don't have time. You're in the business of photography and you're constantly having to produce for clients and you lose that joy. But if you can find the time, 20 minutes a day to go and photograph something that you really want to photograph and then turn that into a collective work, that's what I'm really pushing here and what many people talk about. So let's go ahead and move on. So the importance of personal projects, I've already kind of alluded to it, but it's important to keep your creativity. If you're not creative, you're not going to be able to produce for your clients and for your friends or for your family and things of that sort. Good morning, Mark. Welcome to the stream. The next thing is going to be the importance to your personal growth. I've learned so much about what it is that I enjoy photographing and how to compose certain things and what type of editing style I really enjoy adding. In fact, it was probably my second personal project with my children that I realized I really enjoy contrasty images. And from there, I've been developing my own style around adding contrast to an image. And I think that that's important. So this is going to help you identify things in your own personal growth for photography. So I highly recommend it there. The next one, it's important to show you how far your photography has gone or has come, depending on how you want to look at that. And if you don't look at old photos that you've taken, you'll think that you haven't progressed. And this is a downward spiral that many photographers fall into, where they say, yeah, my work isn't any good. And if you look at what you produced even the year before, you would be like, no, that's not true. I'm actually doing really well. I have, I really did improve over the years or over the time. So, it's important to show you how far your work has come. And if it hasn't progressed, personal projects are a primary way of helping you progress because that goes back to that importance of creativity as well as it's important to the personal growth. Moving on, allows you to showcase your work in a collective way. I know of a handful of photographers that they employ personal projects that they never share, but if you say, "Hey, what have you been working on?" then they will share those works and say, "Hey, look, this is what I've been working on. This is what I've done over the last couple years." And there's a ton of people who do personal projects simply to gather and culminate their work. So it is a huge, huge, huge opportunity to consolidate gains in your own photography workflows and journey. And having it in a collective way of showcasing that tells a cohesive story is extremely helpful and important. And then the last point here, never has to be shared with anyone. I already talked about that or touched on that. You don't have to share this with anyone. This could be, the whole aspect of personal project is you can keep it to yourself, never share it with anyone. I'm personally sharing my project or the one that I'm working on right now. I'm sharing this with the YouTube community and the world because I want to encourage people to go and start working on personal projects, mostly because we're entering into a holiday period. This is typically when people get into creative ruts as well as some other mental health challenges. And, this is just my way of hopefully encouraging those that, watch my content or stumble across this content to go out and just enjoy photography. Don't make it so technical. Just enjoy photography. Have fun. All right. Hot Gates, what's up, man? Just upgraded to PhotoLab 7 and still think it's the best raw converter. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm enjoying PhotoLab 7, and you'll see that here in a second. I just want to get through a few notes about a personal project because I know a lot of people ask me, well, what is a personal project? I've received a lot of questions about these whenever I recommend them to people. So, personal project ideas. Again, don't overthink it. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just something hopefully to help start getting the thoughts going. But the first one, annual collections of your photos. Take your photos from, 2022 or 2023. Heck, if you want, you could make a personal project of photos that were a decade old. It doesn't matter, right? You consolidate all of those photos and then you go through a process, which we're going to go over here in a second. But annual collections of your photos, however you want to do that, you can do it. And if you want to get like really down into the weeds on this, you can do personal projects of annual collections from parks or mountains or whatever, right? Doesn't matter because that's where we get into the second bullet here where it talks about favorite places you've traveled. So if you want to do an annual collection of the favorite places you've traveled over, the time frame over a year, all the places that you went over a year if you travel. Now, if you didn't travel anywhere, then don't worry about that. And travel doesn't have to be far. Travel could be, I got, I went 30 minutes up the road to this place, and this is, one of those areas that I was really inspired, and I want to kind of collect that. Or maybe all all the places that you weren't inspired, but you still took photos. That could be a personal project, and that could be a collection, a body of work. But the next one is timeline of your family. Now, I personally, I shoot my, or I photograph my family. All right, I'll say it like that. I photograph my family, and I make timelines. They're personal projects. My wife told me one day, she's like, you have all these photos of the kids, but you never share them with me. And I kind of got accused of sharing photos of the kids with YouTube and not with my family. So I got to do better at that. But I make personal projects of photos of my kids because I like to see how they've grown in life. They're the reason I picked up a camera in the first place. So I will always make something around teaching, or I'm sorry, around seeing how my family's growing. That's a big deal for me. And they inspire me to continue learning more about photography. That's just the truth. The next one is Animals at the Zoo, which is the personal project that I'm working on today. And that's why the thumbnail looks like, or working on right now, or sharing with you. That's why the thumbnail is a picture of a goat. And then we have emotional expressions. And, this is a big deal because, or, one of those ideas where what is an emotion and what is that expression and how do you capture it and how do you showcase it in a body of work. And that's the whole purpose of these personal projects, is getting you to start to hone in on your own vision of what you photograph, how you photograph it, why you photograph it. Now, notice that none of these are like skies or waters, bodies of water. You can do that if that's what you so choose, but they should be things that are a little bit more minute. And I don't know if that is the best way of saying it, but they should be more focused. All right. If you say, I'm doing a personal project of the color yellow, you could do that. And if that is what keeps you interested in photography, then go for it. However, what you should be thinking is, how do I make something that tells a story? Because if you make an album of a bunch of pictures that don't tell a cohesive story, you may be missing the idea of what the project or the purpose of a project. A project should have a cohesive story. At least that's my opinion. You can take that with a grain of salt. Personal components. Now, and I meant to put the word project in there. So the components of a personal project, in my eyes, it really just comes down to these two things. Must be something you are interested in, and you should tell a complete story of some sort. I just said that. And if you're not interested in it, then you're probably not going to complete it. And the whole purpose of doing the project is to complete it. Now, completion is a very subjective timeline because I have a project that I'm working on, and it's a project of my kids from birth until they move out of the house, right? That could happen whenever it happens. I have an idea of when that's going to happen, I think. But the point there is that project is going to keep going. All right, Hot Gates, thanks for coming over. And yeah, if you check it out later, that'll be awesome. Thank you. So, those are the components of the personal project. Now, here we have the process. Now, this is just my process, and I'm not saying that my process is the end all be all, and everyone should follow my process. But if you've never done a personal project, this is a great place to start working on a personal project. First step, and these are in semi chronological order. I'll tell you when they get out of order. The first one is select a topic or a theme for your project or whatever. This is what I do. I say, okay, what do I want my project to be about? Because if I don't know what it's going to be about, it's going to make it really, really hard for me to start to consolidate images for this, right? So that's why that has to be step one for me. However, this can change at any point during the project. I have changed my themes and topics in my projects, my personal projects, many times over. And that's just the way it goes sometimes, because as you start to uh, get into step number three down there, then you'll end up saying, hey, you know what? I think this might be something that should be this now. And then that becomes the theme or the topic of the overall project. Step number two, map out what I want in this project and what the final work will be. All right, so after I have my topic, so today my topic is animals in the zoo. So now what I have to do is map out what I want in this project and what the final uh, delivery system, if you will, is going to be. And for me, this particular one, I decided it's going to be a digital gallery. That's going to be the final project, or at least the final aspect. And then I'm going to post this to my website so that way I can share it. So you'll be able to see as I work through this over the next, however long it takes me to finish, right? Because I'm not putting a specific timeline on it, but I am going to work towards getting it done. You'll see how I progress on it. I'll bring it up on these live streams, and that'll be, the journey. You guys get to go along with me until it's completed. I have no idea when it's going to be completed, though. The point here is I know that it's going to be a digital gallery on my website. So now, as I'm starting to think about what I'm going to add into it, I know that uh, what I'm looking for, right? Because then I go into step 3, and this is where I start to cull and select my images. And this can take a very long time, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm not going to belabor it too much on the live stream, but this can take months, depending on how many photos you got to go through. But this is a very important step because this is what really redefines or reinforces, I should say. This is what really reinforces bullet point number 1 of selecting your topic and theme. And at the point that you start culling and selecting your images, you may see that you have a ton of bird images. So maybe it goes from a theme of animals in the zoo to birds of prey, birds in flight, something of that sort. I don't know, right? But that's why you have to have an idea so you know what you're looking for. And then as you start to gather your images, you may change the topic or the theme. So hopefully that makes sense. Then we get into the fun part, and this is the part that I spend a lot of time here on the channel, which is editing photos. And for this project, I am limiting myself to only using DxO software in order to edit the photos, because I do want to diversify the content that I provide here on the channel. And that was the other driving factor of why I'm sharing this particular project. As I'm learning the DxO software, showcasing that and how you can use it to complete things. Now, you can use DxO software to do paid work, professional work. I'm just choosing to use it on the personal project side of the house as I understand it more. That's just a personal preference. So take that for what it's worth. And if you're a hobbyist photographer, then this is perfect for you. Then you got planned trips to go capture more images if necessary. If I get through here and I realize, hey, I'm missing a good portion of images that could be helpful for the trips that I'm going on, or I'm sorry, for the project, then maybe I need to plan a trip to go to a zoo so I can go and capture those particular animals, and maybe as I'm thinking through this, just talking to you right now, because everything is very fluid for me, is maybe I want to break this down by aquatic animals and then move into land animals and then move into birds or something. I don't know how I want to do that, but I know that I have an idea now, right? So maybe I need to go back to the zoo and capture some more images. And, the goal that I really want to capture, I think, is I want to show a form of captivity throughout the entire project. Not because it's an oppressive thing. I just think that that's what helps with identifying that these photos were taken at a zoo. Because if you see the habitat enclosure, then you could say, okay, well, obviously these weren't photos taken in the wild. These were photos taken in some sort of controlled environment that we are able to go and view the animals in. And, in a very humane way, right? I'm not trying to do things where it's questionable, right? And I know that there's a lot of different opinions about zoos and animals being in cages or habitats, enclosures, whatever you want to call them. Okay. So I digress on that. But the final thing in my process is I take my time and complete the project. That is so important. You have to take your time and complete your project because uh, if you don't get to the end, then it's this ongoing project. Now, there is something to be said about an ongoing project, like my timeline of my kids growing up and from birth to the time that they get out of the house. Very, very, very important. But I do know that that has an end date. I'm not just doing a perpetual project that never ends. Uh, because in my mind, and I think many people will probably follow suit with this, if you do not complete a task, it becomes this burden, and sometimes it becomes challenging overall to continue working on other things. I like to complete tasks, or at least know that I'm moving towards the end goal. I don't like the lingering of, okay, I'm still working on this, and 60 years later, I'm still working on this. Now, if that's appropriate to be working on something 60 years, then sure. But I don't know, unless you're doing a 6 decade project, and that's the theme of it. I don't know of many projects that need a 60-year window to work on. I could be wrong, just a personal opinion. All right. But I want to make sure that I give myself the appropriate amount of time and then I get to the completion of the project. So we got Calvin on. He says, hey, from Sabago, Lake Maine, happy Thanksgiving. Hey, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Calvin. So now it's time to jump into the demonstration. So let's go ahead and do that right there. And I'm just going to minimize these slides because we don't need those anymore. And then we will jump back into the computer. And here we are inside of PhotoLab 7. Now, this is a really cool piece of software. Let me go ahead and go full screen with this. So that way I'm getting the full screen workspace. And I may turn off my webcam just so that way we can see the entire workspace, but I'll do that as things are getting blocked over here on the left-hand side. So the very first thing that I do whenever I work on a project is I create a folder for the stuff to go into. And PhotoLab does a really good job at giving us these projects. They're down here at the bottom left, and again, it's like right underneath the webcam, so it kind of works. The font is pretty small here, but the very first one, I already created my project or an album. Now you can do this in most photo software that allows you to do digital asset management, similar to what PhotoLab allows here. Uh, so this isn't like something exclusive to PhotoLab creating an album or what they call a project. And I just created this project and then I labeled it Animals at the Zoo. I know what this is, so now I am ready to start adding my photos to this overall project. So the way that I do this, and every program is a little bit different, but what I can do is go full screen with this, right? And I think it's this button up here. There you go. And again, I'm still learning the overall software, and I have photos in here that are not really are not all animals at the zoo. These particular photos that we're about to look at are actually captured at the Central Park Zoo in New York. Um, so the way that I like to work is a cull-in system. If I come across something that I enjoy, then all I do is tag it with a green check mark. I keep it really simple, all right? And then I just move on to the next one. I don't really care for this one, so we'll keep moving. And, you know, what I did forget to do is filter this by raw images. So let me go back real quick, and we're going to go to filter, and I only want raw images. The JPEGs, I like those, but that would be for something else. I want to be able to edit these images and have the raw data. So I'm just going to filter this by raw images first. And now I'll come back over here and we'll go full screen. And I did like this photo, so now we're going to go through this. I didn't care for that one. And I love how fast this goes. I kind of like this one. And again, what I'm looking for in these images are things that tell me that the person or that the animal is in some form of enclosure, or at least in some level of captivity, or there's like some human element of how the animal is, being presented to us. This tag is a key indicator or a huge clue that humans have interacted with this animal in some way, shape, or form. All right, but I actually like this one a little bit more. So, and the keyboard shortcuts that I'm using right now are the right arrow key and the letter P on the keyboard. Those are the only things that you really need to know how to use on the particular, for this portion at least, the culling aspect. And I'm just going to move through. I really like that one. And I'm not thinking I will have too many images. In fact, I prefer to have way more images than I need in my collection, because I will do a second culling after I edit, or as I'm going through and selecting, like, okay, what do I want to put into the photo book? All right. And some of these are soft focus, so I know I'm going to have to do some extra work. And this one, you can see kind of the glare on the glass casing and the enclosure. So it's stuff like this that I think will make for a good project. And then, we got animal portraits and things of that sort. And I am moving through this fairly quickly. It's a pretty nice photo. Okay, I like the way that he's looking down and you can still see the tags. This one might be a good reference shot, just the back of the bird. And it's simple, right? I don't know if it'll make the final cut, but there you go. And then same thing here. This is a good portrait type photo. This one's a little bit better. Okay, I like this one. The composition of it looks pretty good. So I'll keep moving. This one doesn't look too bad either, so I'll add that. And I'm just looking through, making sure that there's stuff that I could use, right? So I like that. I'm not a fan of any of these because there's a good one. He just looks like he's the boss, and you can see the eye detail here. So that's why I like that. I like this one just because it's another pose, and I can make a triptych here. So as I'm going through, I'm thinking, what can I do with these photos? So when you have multiple photos of a similar subject, I can combine them into one and potentially make, something very fun and creative. Again, the whole idea here is to stay creative with your photography and with your editing, right? I err more on the side of editing because this is what I really enjoy. There's a out of focus shot. This one looks pretty good. It's pretty noisy, but I can live with that. And so the challenge here, again, I'm thinking, I know the end state of what I'm trying to do for this project, which is digital. If I was printing this, I probably wouldn't even have thought about the noise, but because this is going into a digital workspace or a digital delivery system, that noise is going to be very abundant, and that could be distracting to the viewers. So now that's telling me, okay, how much of this can I clean up and still preserve the image? Technology is phenomenal, and PhotoLab actually has some really cool denoising technology. So we're going to take a look at that a little bit later here today. So we're just going to move through, and that one is too soft focus for me. I like this one. So we'll go, I like this one as well. And I like, now this one is really cool. I just like the angle that we're getting there. Um, this one could be a reference shot that kind of sets up going into this shot. So this one can go before this one in the digital library that I'm going, or the gallery, I should say, that I'm going to publish these in. This one could also be a good reference shot. Again, I'm not overly concerned about having a lot of images right now. This one could also be a pretty good reference shot. I like that as well. Okay, so now we're getting into some more environmental shots that tell a story. And, you know, again, just in the photos that I have edited so far, or at least culled through, I should say, um, I'm starting to get an idea of what I want this overall photo project to come together as. And right now, it's very focused on these puffins. I think that's what they are. I'm pretty sure that's what they are. Uh, and I'm realizing that some of these are soft focused, and I'll either try to fix that later, or I'll just go with a soft focused image and I'll make a style around that. Sometimes I think we get way too concerned about if an image is like ultra sharp because we live in this extremely digital and amazing photography era. But there are so many photos that are from the masters or the greats historically, where their files were not, or their photos, I should say, were not very sharp. And I think that, you know, there's a way for us to make something out of that. So now we're getting to a bear or to other animals. This one is just a photo of a bear. It was sleeping. I'm thankful that it was behind that glass, because this bear is, it doesn't, this photo doesn't do it justice, even though it's filling up most of the frame. The bear was actually much larger than what I think I was able to capture, because this is just the bear's head, by the way. So big bear. Now, this was one of the smaller bears. I don't know if it's a cub or not, but these ones are actually a little blurry and out of focus. Uh, I know that I just said it doesn't matter as much if they're in focus or not in focus, but when you start working, you know, I would like some of these to be more in focus as well, right? Um, and that's not always subjective. That's also very literal or objective. But I'm not going to worry about getting, I like this one. And I also like that one. Don't care for that. That one doesn't look too good. I could do a segment of the gallery of bears that are just laying down, because this is a bear laying down as well. So I can add that to the project. And here's a better shot of that bear laying down, which is kind of cool. I like this one. I think that one has a better exposure overall, so that one will probably work. And then this one, the bear is filling the frame a little bit more, so I like the composition that I'm getting here. And then, of course, another close-up of the bear's face, probably closer to the bear than most people would ever want to get. I know I don't want to get that close to this bear, or any bear for that matter. And there's a photo of my daughter. She was jumping up. And I don't know what this is. I think it was a snow leopard. I could be wrong. It's ironic if it is a snow leopard in the grass, but these photos I think came out really, really good, and I would love to add these to the collection. So I'm just going to hit the green check mark here to add them in. Even though this one, the focus is on the grass in front, so that's why I'm skipping through some of these. This one is actually getting the animal in focus. Now we're back to some birds. In fact, I've actually edited some of these photos uh, on a video previously. Um, but I like that. I like that one because he's looking at me, kind of looking at me there. Uh, I'll go with that one. This one, I don't like what's happening to his eye, and I think I got some other ones. I like the way that he's turning and looking at me, and I don't know if it's a he or she because I don't know that much. This is actually the photo that I edited previously, and we're going to keep moving through. I like this one as well. We'll go with that one. I just got one like that, so we'll go with that. And I just love how fast this program allows me to cull through images. This could be a good reference shot, so I'll go with that. It's not something that naturally sticks out. Now, this one I do like. This one could be a really good reference shot. This is a more environmental shot, sort of. I wish I was a little bit wider on this particular photo. We're getting a little bit more of the bird's body here, so I'll go with that. And oh, okay, I'm not gonna worry about that. Yeah, I guess I could go with one of those. I like this one. This is like just an elegant portrait. Um, I hate that there's a branch going right over the bird's face. And this is one of those areas where I'm going to stay true to form and stick purely inside of DxO software. But I would love to be able to just remove that branch in Photoshop. But, I'm going to stay true to myself, or true to the challenge of working purely in DxO software. And what that does is it forces me, when I'm out photographing, to really pay more attention to what it is that I'm photographing. So I don't have to rely on software to correct things like that. Okay, I think that looks good too. So we'll go with that one. I really like them looking down. So that one just blocked way too much. This one doesn't have enough reference, I think. This one, you can see the eye of the animal, so I'll go with it, but I don't think I did a good job at capturing that animal, so that one may not make it in the final cut. Then there was some little birds in the trees. Now these are actual, wild birds, if you will. They just happened to be in the zoo that day, probably eating some of the food of the animals in their habitat. I actually like this photo primarily because of all the greenery that's going around the animal. I have no idea what type of animal this is because I'm not some genius like that. I tried to do some shutter drag to capture this bird moving, which I did, but I don't really care for that. This photo looks kind of cool. It's like the bird is kind of looking up to this rock, so I'll go with it. Again, this may not make it into the final cut, but it is something that was there. Here's some little turtles that were in a little pond, but I wasn't really feeling these other than the fact that I would just took a photo of them because they were swimming around. Now we're getting into, this was inside of a observatory. I think that's what it's called. A bird sanctuary. I don't know. It was really warm in here because these are tropical birds, if I'm not mistaken. This bird was asleep and very colorful. This, I think, will be a fun photo to edit in DxO just because of the color aspect of it. And this is probably a better look. We'll keep going. I really do like that, so I'll go with it. Don't really care for that photo. Yeah, we'll go with this one. And I'll probably end up cropping this one in. Okay, so now we're getting to a duck inside of this little bin. Kind of like that one, like that one. So we're just gonna keep moving through. And then this one, this other little duck kind of popped his head up. Kind of cool. So I know I'm bringing you along with, with me through this process, but hopefully it's being value added. And, if you got questions either in the live stream or if you are watching this in the replay, then please let me know what your questions are, because what I want to do is help people understand what they can do. And the culling process, it can be a little challenging, I'll be honest, because you have to envision what you want to do with the images. And you notice I'm going through this pretty quick. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on this as far as the selections go. And that's because I'm going to edit these again. And what I want to do is start to gather large chunks of images. So that way I can figure out, what do I want to include into my project? And, that's kind of the focus of today. Yeah, I think I'll go with that one. And, that's all I'm really working on here. That bird did not actually belong in there. I don't think that it belonged in there, at least. I think it just flew in there and started to eat the bird food of the other birds. Yeah. So Mark says he's enjoying this, but not sure he's ready for another editor. But lots of good general info. Yeah. Hey, look, the goal here is not to sell you on PhotoLab 7. I'm personally using PhotoLab just because I do own it, and if I don't use the software for a personal project, then I'm not going to be able to, or I feel like I'm not getting the value out of the dollar amount that I've invested, right? So the deal here is you can do photo projects in Lightroom, in Luminar, in Adobe Bridge even. You can, in On1, I don't want to miss my favorite editor of all. You could do photo projects in pretty much any editor that allows you to do digital asset management, right? You can even do photo projects on your local hard drive, be it a Finder file or a Explorer file, and then edit inside of Photoshop. So there's so many different things that you can do, or Affinity Photo, and then just save everything back into that folder, and then you just produce that, publish it somehow. I think that the editors that at least, an editor similar to PhotoLab will allow you to do this a little bit easier. And that's the whole reason why oh yeah, I like that one. That's the whole reason why I am showcasing this, but I'm not showcasing it to say that PhotoLab is the only editor that you should and can go and do these photo projects in. And if that came across that way, I do apologize. But that's the whole reason why I'm giving general info of what I'm thinking when I go through this, because, and I'm going through this really fast, primarily because this can be a little boring to watch. But what I'm thinking when I see these photos, like that dude, that bird looked like, don't mess with me, bro. I will peck your eyes out. And this one is even better. Like you start to see these expressions, and or at least we humanize animals. We put expressions onto them that they may not even be thinking. Like this is just his face. I don't think he's trying to look angry or anything. He's more concerned about that food than he is inside of his bowl than he is anything else. Uh, but because we humanize animals, it can help draw some interesting conclusions or interesting scenarios that when we share our files, uh, they connect with people, and that's kind of what I'm going for with that bird, at least. I like that or at least my intention. I was trying to frame this monkey in the two rocks with the opening, and I think I did a pretty good job there. Could probably do a little bit better. Uh, I was using a 100 to 400 millimeter lens, and that is as close as I could get uh, to the monkey. Now, these ones were a lot closer, but the one that I was trying to capture obviously didn't have that capability. And these monkeys were in direct sunlight, so I'm not going to see much grain, but they're going to be very harshly contrasted just because of the settings I had to use to actually capture them. Because it was way brighter than I would like it to have been. But when you're on vacation and this is when the time that you're at the zoo, you capture what you can, and you could see how bright it is just looking at those rocks. Uh, it was really, really bright, and he's looking up at me there, so I can probably open up the shadows on his eyes to help that. I like this one. That looks pretty good. That one's good. But the cool thing about having tons and tons of light is most of the time you won't run into issues with sharpness. So I'm selecting the ones that I think I'll do something with. I'm not going to worry about the ducks. I'm just going to jump through these because I don't think they were in the water around the monkey enclosure, habitat, environment, I guess we can call it. Kind of like that one. So I got enough of those monkeys, the backside. There's a guy playing the saxophone under a bridge. Uh, got some photos of that. This is going into the petting zoo. There's my family that I was photographing as we were just kind of going through the zoo. These ducks are wild ducks. I don't know what this was a photo of. So sometimes, I just take random photos, and I don't know what I was trying to capture. But these ducks let me get pretty close to them. I don't want to actually. Whatever. Um, Now we get to the petting zoo, and these are the original images that inspired me to do the animals in the zoo because uh, to me, this showcases that level of captivity that I was talking about. I like that one. This one's kind of cool just because it's a close up of something. These animals, they're living really good though. They are expecting me to give them some food. I did not actually purchase the food. And then I was able to kind of lean over the railing because of how tall I am and how short that was. I'm not like, I'm actually not even putting the camera over the railing. I'm just standing up and looking down, and this is what I was able to get. I like how the sheep has the hay over his head or whatever. All right, so now we're at the goat, and this is the photo or this is in the series of the photos that made the thumbnail. This is probably the thumbnail photo, if I remember correctly. It's one of these. And this goat, he just posed for me. And it seems like every time I photograph goats, they always pose for me. And I like it. I have a photo of a goat from a mountain retreat that I went to. They had a goat. I don't think it was a petting zoo. I think they had them for like milk or whatever. And he posed for me. And then, of course, this gentleman here, he didn't necessarily pose. He was just playing his saxophone. And I photographed him because I thought that would be cool. So I think those are all of the animal photos because if I remember correctly, we took a break and ended up going, oh, we got these little bunnies. And then there was a gentleman with, he was doing some, I guess, show stuff in Central Park. Let me, yeah. All right. Let me go ahead and close that out because I don't think I have many animal images after that because, yeah, we took a break and we went on. So now that that's done, what I like to do is go ahead and grab everything that was considered a picked image. And that's all of these. I'll hit Command and A to select them all. And then I just click and drag and then drop them into this project. And that is 164 images. Now, what I enjoy about using DxO, and this is specific to DxO, what I did of sorting and then dragging and moving those images over into the animals at the zoo project, that's going to be probably universal across most photo editing software. However, what DxO does is they give you these lens and camera profile optic recipes, so to speak. And this is unique to DxO software, PhotoLab 7 or PhotoLab in general. So what you can see here is I was using the Canon EOS R6 Mark II plus the Canon RF 100 to 400 on the images here. Well, if I download this, this is going to optically correct those images for me, and it's going to save this recipe into my computer here, which is extremely, extremely helpful when you're trying to make sure you have optically appropriate images. I'm going to go ahead and hit download, and it happens really quickly. So it's not like it's a long download. And I'm just going to go ahead and close this window now. You can see these little green download symbols go away as soon as it's downloaded, and it optically corrects the image. Now, for part one, the whole culling aspect, that is essentially what I wanted to show. However, it wouldn't be true to form if I didn't at least edit a photo. So I said that there was a photo when I was going through it thinking, hey, this is going to be a digital file and there's a lot of noise. I think it was this one. So I'm going to click that and we're going to open it in Customize. Yeah, I think it was this one. Either way, this one has a lot of digital noise in it. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can fix this. DxO, there are some preset, or I guess auto adjustments, if you will, adjustments that are already turned on for me when I select an image and come into Customize. And that is this DxO Smart Lighting. So if I turn this off and turn it on, it's very subtle for this particular image, and I'm not sure if it's going to come through on the live stream. However, I will tell you that this is actually a very, very helpful thing to have available. Then there's DxO Clearview, and I think that is going to help out a lot with this image. So I'm just going to pull this up a bit. And what it does, I'm guessing here. So if anyone who is watching this understands more about what the Clearview does, then please share that in the comment section below. In fact, let me click this little icon here, this little question mark. DxO Clearview lets you improve the contrast and sharpness of your images by removing the effects of atmospheric haze or fog. So what I was going to say originally is this particular tool is like a dehaze slider. And that's essentially what that just said. So I was going to be correct in what I was saying. But pulling this up, you can see it just makes the photo a little bit more rich. But the reason why I really wanted to bring this over into edit was to modify that that noise, because that is going to be distracting. So we're going to go ahead and click on the third tab up here. And this is where DxO kind of separates itself from, or PhotoLab separates itself from some of the other photo editing software. Every photo editing software right now has its own version of noise reduction, and that's actually interesting. And there's preferences out there. I'm not going to tell you which one is better. I'm just going to show you the results that I get from Deep Prime. So I'm going to go with Prime first, and we're going to let this render through. And I actually think that that did render through. So let me turn this off, and then I'll turn it back on. So looking in this little loop over here, you can see there's a ton of color noise, which is to be expected for what I was doing. So if I turn this on, you'll see that this gets cleaned up a little bit over here. And this is what that noise now looks like. Now, I always like to look at my noise reduction from the 100% view, or as a person would view the image. Looking at it up close, it looks like there's no noise, but you can see there's still some noise. And I don't think photos need to be completely free of noise. They just need to be less distracting so the viewer can enjoy whatever the image is. All right. If I go with Deep Prime, let's see what happens here. And that cleans it up in a different way. There's more detail in the shadow area. And this is probably not coming through the best on the live stream. But if you have DxO software, if you have PhotoLab 7, you will see this noise reduction in action, and you'll be able to kind of compare that, at least on your own photos. And this photo here was shot at 12,000 ISO. We can tell that over here on the left where it says ISO 12K. You know, all the exposure settings are over here. Now we'll go Deep Prime XD. And these are just different models of the denoising software that DxO offers. Now, you can tweak all of these, right? So for me, the noise is the most obtrusive in the background. I'm okay with the noise on the bird. I think it gives the bird some texture. But I want to look over here. So I'm going to sample this area. And when you zoom in at 100%, it actually looks very smooth. But I mean, we're looking at it, you know, not at 100%, and it doesn't look as smooth. So I'm going to crank up on the luminance and just see what happens. Because luminance is what actually starts to make the photo look a little bit more smooth and less noisy. So I'm just going to pull that up a little bit more. And you can see it's doing that, but it's also making us lose some detail here. So I'm not sure that's the way that I want to go. I'll go ahead and pull down on the luminance and just allow that level of noise to be there. And I'll be okay with that for the purposes of what I'm doing. Because again, I'm only using DxO software. I could audition this through Topaz Photo AI, which is another software that I have, and it does a pretty good job at removing noise. I could send this into Photoshop, um, or I'm sorry, not Photoshop, Lightroom, and use the Lightroom noise reduction because this is a raw image. Um, there's a number of images that, or a number of ways that I can start to work on this image, but I want to stay pure to DxO stuff. So that's why I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is come over to the color space. And this is where I really start to have fun with the DxO or the PhotoLab 7. Because if I come to camera body, and if I remember this trick, I'm going to click here and no, was it? No, that doesn't work either. I'll have to go back to a comment that I received from someone who gave me some advice on how you can kind of cycle through these and it will show up on the monitor and I don't have to come in and click. Uh, but apparently I don't remember how that works. So I'll have to go and read that comment again. But I like my Nikon looks, and back in the day, again, I used to shoot Nikon D52s, D5200, and I enjoyed that look. So I'm just going to select that. It will apply that particular look over the image, and I think it looks pretty decent to what that would be. And I think that's cool. Now, the other reason why I wanted to stay inside of PhotoLab is because I use FilmPack, and I really enjoy using FilmPack. Because I'm probably not going to be able to get rid of the digital noise, the way that I would edit this is probably by using the DxO FilmPack Time Machine, and I'll probably go into something from the 50s, maybe even I'm sorry, the 60s. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's just select that. And that's not the one that I wanted. So we're going to move over to here and let's check this one. So now it's starting to give it a little bit of character. And again, there's other ways that I can navigate through the film pack options that are available. Maybe this one will, that looks a little too faded for me. Maybe this one. Nope, not a fan of that. And this is where you could spend a ton of time. Again, I don't want to rush it, but what I want to do is give this some form of interest. So like this could be the look, and I want to give it purpose for having that grain, and that's why I use the film pack just to see what can I do. I actually kind of like this one, so I can go with that. And if I wanted to tweak this, all I have to do is come over to effects, and I could spend the time in here to really fine tune this particular look. And this is why I still think that PhotoLab and FilmPack combined are a fantastic and are the stylistic king for photography. I know that that's a very bold statement to make, and it is also very subjective, but it is what I believe, and it is what I would recommend to people if you're looking for two programs that complement each other. Now, this is not to say On One or any of the other software is inferior, because that is not the truth. This just has a different place in the photo space, at least in my opinion, and how I see the way that I work with projects and photos. So as I go through this photo project, I'm just going to be exploring and understanding more about PhotoLab and how I can use it on my work, both my paid work and my personal work. So that is where I think I will leave the stream for today. And the reason I could go on and on, but the goal is not to make long and drawn out videos or informative things. Hopefully today you were able to see how you can go from not having a personal project and then getting started on that project. I just started on this project. I have the first 164 images, I believe it was, ready to start making into a final project. And, I didn't go over rules of what that final project may be because I'm not sure yet. I may put 70 photos into a collection. I may put 30 photos, 40 photos. It just depends. But that is something that I wanted to kind of showcase how to do it. And then I'm giving myself a constraint to stay creative within the, you know, the best way to stay creative is to give yourself a little bit of boundary that you can't go outside of. And then you still have to produce internal to that. Like the film pack is one of those things that I'm adding to this photo because I couldn't get rid of the noise completely shooting at 12K. And that's okay. But what can I do to kind of make that photo make sense with the noise? And that's what I'm doing here. And Mark says, film pack seems very cool. Yeah, it is. And then he says, thanks, Chris. Lots of great stuff as usual. Hey, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate you, as well as everyone else who supports the content that I produce here. I'm just an average guy that enjoys sharing information about photography. I love to teach it. I love to learn from, the community of people who leave comments and say, hey, this is how you could actually do that. And I go and test that out. And if it's something that works, then I do my best to bring it back so everyone can learn from it. But I also love learning from the community of other creators on YouTube because, we really are a community and I enjoy that. So thank you again for everyone who supports this content, this channel. If you found value in the video or the live stream, please smash that like button. Leave your comments down below. Leave questions down below. I do get to all of my comments and I do my best to answer questions to the best of my ability. But with that, I will leave the stream. So until the next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.